Hello and welcome to On the Clock, presented by WorkStream. If you care about hiring and retaining hourly employees, you're in the right place. I'm Daniel Blazer, and today I'm clocking in with Isaac Abramovici. Isaac is Outreach Director at Community Home Care in New York City. He shares his tips for attracting applicants and how he gives employees a sense of belonging even though they work across different locations. He also shares some recommendations for screening automation and more. Well, Isaac, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I'm really excited.
That was my pleasure, Daniel. Thank you. I run the marketing here at Community Home Care. And really what my job entails is sort of dealing with marketing on both, we are a healthcare company, so we're a home care agency. So we help people who are at home and need the extra help, whether it's a home attendant or a nurse or anything like that. So my job is to sort of deal with the marketing on hiring, aides, and at the same time bringing in the patients. So I sort of work on both ends of the industry, but generally speaking, I would say I run the marketing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Kind of do the marketing on both sides of that spectrum. Approximately how many employees are, currently employed? How many are you, open positions are you trying to fill at any given time?
So Community Home Care, we have a little bit over 1,000 employees. During COVID, it was very, hard to get people to work, and now the demand, for employment really went up. So now it's hard to get people to actually, I'll have somebody in an interview and it's very hard to get them to actually take the job and go to the actual job. So we're dealing with different challenges now than we've seen within the last 2 years. So to go back to your question on how many positions we have open, for the most part, obviously we have in-office staff, but we're not really hiring for those type of positions on a day-to-day basis. But for the most part, we're trying to hire as many personal care assistants, nurses, home health aides, as many as we can. We try to get a good flow every single day of those positions.
So you mentioned, that you kind of act as, in marketing in a way. What are some challenges that you've been facing in your role? You mentioned one, getting candidates to actually accept positions and follow through with that. But what are some other challenges that you've been facing, maybe in the last 6 to 12 months, let's say?
In the last 6 to 12 months, I would say the biggest challenge I have is getting good quality candidates, I would say. I don't know if that's something that's new, post-pandemic, but it's definitely something that, especially if we have a lot of, we have a special contract with the state of New York where we have, cases that are 24/7. So these are people who are quadriplegics, bedbound patients. So they need an extra level of care that, it's not just, going to the grocery store, maybe just tidying, helping somebody who's a little elderly and, taking them to doctor appointments, which that is very important. But when you have a case that's sort of a bedbound, live-in case, they need that sort of extra level of care, and it's not for everybody. So finding candidates for those type of positions can be very challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. In your position, what have you learned? What are some insights into maybe hiring and retaining hourly workers? I know that, like you mentioned, you're a little bit more on the marketing side, but you surely have learned a lot about what hourly workers, what these healthcare professionals, what they're looking for, and what encourages them to stick around at a job.
For sure. A big part is, I feel like there's a few answers to this question. One, on a basic level, if somebody's looking at a job post, they want to see sort of what kind of benefits they're going to get from our agency. We happen to be part of a union here in New York, so they do get a lot of benefits. So when I'm trying to, hire or try to get applicants, I try to really stress that the benefits that they're going to get for working for us. Obviously the competition is tough, in this environment, but we want to try to stress all the benefits that we have. At the same time, it's important to get a good bookkeeping, that can answer any of their questions. They might have questions about their pay. I would say a good communication between the hourly workers and the staff, because in my industry, they might, they're not coming into the office every day. They're out in the field, in patients' homes. so they can feel not connected to the company they're working for. So on our end, we're trying to have a good, clear communication between our workers and the staff. Recently we've implemented sending out gifts on our home health aides birthdays. That's something we just started, just to sort of build that rapport with our aides and other workers.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I know, with depending on what the company is, a lot of companies are trying to figure out how to encourage employees to feel more connected, maybe with some working remotely. But it is an interesting challenge to try to encourage that kind of employee engagement, even though, like you said, a lot of times the employees are all over the place doing their jobs. So I can see how that would definitely present some challenges. Why do you take pride in your job? Like, why do you enjoy your role?
Well, I enjoy my role. I would say, again, we are in a healthcare field, so we are helping people on a patient end. When I'm onboarding new patients, whether they're coming, be getting referred to from different hospitals in the city, or for different agencies, I get to hear their stories of people who are really bad shape. We get some really tough cases that come our way, especially in a big city like New York. One of the examples that I'm thinking about is I have a patient that lives by himself, has no legs, and he's just by himself in his home. He was referred to by one of our hospitals, and now he has a home health aide, somebody who can come help him, get him cooked, get him dressed, take him to his doctor's appointment. Just to think about somebody like that, how are they managing without anybody helping them? A lot of people might not have any family or friends or anything like that. So it's cases like that where, it's sad to hear, but at the same time, when you're making it, it's a case where we're making a difference, and we see that on a day-to-day basis. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see how that would be really gratifying. You mentioned, one of the big challenges you've seen recently is just trying to get people to apply for positions. I'd like to kind of go into that a little bit further. What efforts have you put into that haven't panned out the way that you wanted to, or maybe what are some channels that you've tried that, have kind of contributed to those challenges?
In the past, we had two different ways. We had, recruiters, in-house recruiters, who their job was to sort of go out in the fields, job fairs. They would go to the schools where home health aides would get their certificates and try to recruit people that way. Before I got to the company, they were doing some sort of advertisements on Indeed. And it was a little bit of a different process. They would get their resume and someone would have to call and schedule them. And that's where, when I was able to set up Workstream for the company, it sort of bridged that gap where, we're able to sort of advertise on a bunch of different job boards. And, not only is it sort of streamlines the process, but at the same time, it just makes the hiring process much easier. One, because somebody fills out a job application, they automatically get automated messages on, what they need to do next, what steps they need to do, all the, requirements they need to bring in for the job interview. And it just makes things much easier. So since, we've implemented Workstream, it's been made a big difference. That's for sure.
Well, that's great to hear. A lot of the people that listen to this podcast, they're other people that, just like you, they're trying to source hourly employees. A lot of times they're looking for new ideas or, recommendations or advice. What advice would you give if someone else is listening and they're like, yeah, I'm also just having a hard time on the sourcing side? What advice or recommendations would you give to them?
The advice that I would give to them, it would be that we're trying to source all over the city. So it's not just sort of in one office. We're trying to source throughout the whole city. So my advice would be, maybe two or threefold would be, making your job posts very crystal clear and appealing. I would say also having somebody that's, on top of, the applicants. So people who are applying even though there's that automation involved where they can schedule and they can just come in, you want to you want to put a personal touch to it. So you want to have somebody reach out to them, say, hey, you have an interview coming up next week. Is there any questions you have? Because somebody could schedule an interview doesn't mean they're necessarily going to come in. So you want to add that personal touch to it. That's about it.
No, those are great recommendations. For that personal touch, do you typically approach that with SMS or phone calls or?
So what's good about WorkStream is when somebody does apply, we have it set up where they would get an email and a text. So we're already pretty solid on the text and email side. So we try to have actual phone call. Here's somebody from the company, they found this job on Indeed. They're walking in from basically just talking to a computer. So sometimes people are commuting an hour and a half on the train. So, from just talking to, a robot, basically. So you want to be able to say, we are a company. This is what it is. This is who we are, any questions. And, it makes them feel a little bit more comfortable that, they're going to be coming in for this job interview.
You talked a little bit about, the importance of nailing down your job descriptions. And earlier you mentioned, that to attract employee or candidates, you need to offer good benefits, good compensation. Obviously, pay is like the top most important thing everyone's looking for. But I wanted to ask you, beyond pay, are there any like perks or benefits that you have found have like made a difference in attracting applicants? That maybe it's something you didn't even expect, but it's something that has, you've heard through the grapevine that has been appreciated.
That's been obviously, like you said, pay is definitely the most important one. I would say the most important thing to people would be the health and dental insurance that they get and vision. So somebody who does work with us, all our employees do get health, vision, and dental. So that's sort of like the second tier. Anything that really surprised me, nothing really, that comes to my mind, but those are really, it's pay. And then I would say health, vision, and dental. Again, it's the food that's on their table and then it's their health. So it's not, I would say it's not something that surprised me. It's more of a no-brainer. But yeah, we do have matching 401k and we do have other benefits, that do come with it. But those are the two that stand out to me.
Yeah, fair enough. I just wanted to maybe open it up, like once again, with the context that a lot of people listening to this are you may be in your same shoes. Any other final like advice or recommendations or anything that from your perspective that it might be helpful for everyone to hear?
I would say one of the tips that helped me, because of the field that we're in, we have patients with multiple different languages. So we're looking for aides who can speak English, Spanish, Creole, French, Russian, Mandarin, Cantonese. So we have all the languages. So what I liked about WorkStream that really made a difference was they had these smart screening questions. So the two questions, that I sort of smart screened were, are you legally able to work in the country? Because if you're not able to work. Are you 18 and older? So those were sort of givens. One of the things I asked was, do you have a certificate to do this job? That's an important one. So that really helped in our screening process. Another thing we asked on their application was, what language do you speak? So now when we have a case that, let's say, is Mandarin speaking in Manhattan, I'm able to export all our applicants from WorkStream to Excel and sort of narrow it down by language. And that's made, life much, much, much easier.
That's really cool. I actually have never heard anyone kind of call out that specific use case. And so that's a great one to call out. Thank you so much for chatting with me. I think everyone's going to enjoy listening to your perspective. It's, your industry is not one that we've been able to hear from as often as like some of the other quick service restaurants and stuff. So I think people will really enjoy that perspective and some of the unique insights that you bring. So thank you.
For sure. My pleasure. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you for listening to On the Clock. For more info, visit workstream.us/podcast. I've also included a link in the show notes to connect with Isaac on LinkedIn. Until next time, we're clocking out.